to the top, it's time to jump up. People, are you ready? Windies in the land, just put up your hand. It's time to party.
Hello everyone and welcome to On Tour as we look at the West Indies Tour of South Africa, day one in Centurion and the Windies staging a grand fight back. I'm Barry Wilkinson, thank you so much for joining me. I'm so happy to have all the way from Zimbabwe, former pacer Edward Rainsford, and of course Tino Bess, the fastest man still around in West Indies cricket, so it looks. Gentlemen, I'm so happy to have you on the program. We're going to have a look at what happened in Centurion in a minute, but I must tell you, it's so pleasing that the West Indies staging a grand fight back after being 222 for 2, the South Africans, at the close of play, 300 odd for 8. What a great fight back. And I'm sure, Tino, let's start with you. You'll be happy to see how the Windies bowlers certainly made a very good game of it.
Yeah, it was an extraordinary comeback, led from the front by Zari Joseph, who, we're going to get in and discuss him a lot more. But he looked terrific. Obviously the first spell wasn't the best, but, the first test nerves. But I thought the West Indies fought back, and I thought they gave a good account of themselves.
Ed, the facility there at Centurion. I didn't think that the West Indies bowlers were on target quite early. 140 for 1, and then 222, then all the way up to 314 for 8. Where did the Windies bowlers go wrong early that the batsmen were able to get away, not taking anything away from Aidan Markram's wonderful century?
Yeah, the problem with Centurion is that the first session, the first hour, first 2 hours, the pitch itself is very slow. So your lengths are so important. You have to be banging away at that about 6 meter mark, that 5 meter mark, trying to bring the stumps into play, because you can get quite carried away with the bounce that carries through to the keeper. So it's mainly the first hour, maybe the second hour into probably the second session. And then Centurion does quicken up, the cracks come into effect, the live grass dies off, and it becomes quite difficult to bat. So I think the West Indies they weren't great with their groupings in that first hour, 2 hours. Otherwise, if they were, they're of course South Africa more concerned. But as you say, take nothing away of how Aidan Markram and Dean Elgar actually batted in that first session.
So without further ado, South Africa, they won the toss. They decided to bat first. Here a look at the highlights.
It's got that away.
Off the bottom of the bat. It'll go for 4. Oh, yes.
And doesn't get it right first up. Loose delivery, Dean Elgar. Oh, that's well done. Oh. Get a couple out before. Oh, yeah, there you go.
Concentration abilities. It's a lovely drive. That's away, back on a square, nicely played. Elgar goes to 50. That is a determined 50. That's a 50 that sends just a little bit of a message, maybe.
Well, it's a very positive Aidan Markram today. His balance has been good. Oh, well bowled. In the end, it really well played. Another one of those crashing drives from Markram. Oh, ouch. Ooh. That's a wonderful stroke.
And make that 132. That's nicely played. That's been his little go-to shot.
Get a stable base. He can then decide quite clearly what to do.
Oh no!
Man there. Oh, that's a good catch. That is a fabulous catch. Misjudged just for a bit. Jermaine Blackwood. And then kept it in hand. It's outstanding. It really is.
Yeah, it was a slight misjudgment. He almost charged, and Dean Elgar's not convinced. He ran through to the non-strikers and he thinks he's put it down. He's not too sure what's unfolded, but that was a wonderful recovery from Blackwood. It was the short pitch delivery. Elgar trying to play it in a similar kind of vein, pops it airborne, and they're going to send it upstairs just to check it out. But I have no issues with it. I think it's clean. It wasn't much judgment originally, but definitely a good recovery.
TV umpire director, we were checking a fair catch. We were umpire review for a fair catch. It's a fair delivery. I've checked the front foot. Could we have your best angle of that catch, please? Yep. Yeah, another angle. Caught it clean. Yeah, it's in the hand. And that, yes, ready to make my decision on the big screen.
Oh, that's a lovely shot. It's a beautiful shot. Tej Chandapur scrambling again. They might think about coming back for the third. Oh, De Zorzi wants to come back for the third. Now De Silva's asked for that to go upstairs, and they have sent it upstairs. I wonder if De Zorzi got back in time. It looks like he might have, because they're not too animated out there from the West Indies point of view.
Short.
Oh, that's pretty adjacent. That's pretty adjacent. Up goes that finger. So he's on his way now. So they get one, they get two. So suddenly things change and look a little bit different. He's going to have a bit of a chat, a brief chat, and keep walking. I think that's going to be his mindset. It certainly looked pretty straight. Yep, that's what he decided to do.
Another stumps, middle in, off stump. Oh, he plays right around. It does Bavoma and
Got him! Alzari Joseph changing the day for West Indies.
he is indeed. He's working the oracle here for the West Indies. 3 wickets in short succession. What the batter would have been expecting. He slides in the Yorker. And the delivery is perfect. Lands right on the popping crease, under the bat of Aiden Markram, who's gone for 115. He's been there for a long period of time. So to get through the defences like that, it has to be a hell of a delivery, and it was indeed. Fourth wicket goes down. A brilliant innings of 115. Back in the fold, back at the top of the order, Aiden Markram.
And out! Gabriel's done it.
He rushes him, hits him a little bit high up on the bat. And it's a bit of a leading edge as well. And as it goes up, his heart would have been in his mouth. Joseph is an athlete. He covered the ground comfortably, takes the catch.
They ask, they get. No question about it. Keegan Peterson in front of all three.
Yeah. We're going to need ultra edge, please. Just rock and rolling that. Yeah, clearly missing the bat. And onto the pad, so we'll go to ball tracking when ready.
4 slips. And the third one takes the catch. Blackwood it is. He's got good hands, Blackwood. So Jason Holder is rewarded. He gets in the wickets column. He's been steady today. He's been getting some movement, some extra bounce, as you'd expect. But that's a fine grab.
It is. We saw a couple of deliveries before, the ball going across the left-handed Kahisa Rabada, and then Holder over pitches, gets driven straight down the ground. But the key here is he goes back to the right length. He hits that area of uncertainty. Rabada can't hit through the line. He's just looking to defend because the length is good, and on the angle grabs the edge.
Fantastic stuff. We'll take a break on tour. When we come back, we'll dissect the day's play. A century from Markram and Alzari Joseph bowling superb. We'll be back right here on tour. We're back on tour as we look at the West Indies and South Africa's first test in Centurion. 314 for 8, the score at the end of day one. Let's look first of all at the South Africans and how they batted. I mean, they were 140 for 1 at one stage, and we have to give full credit to 28-year-old Aiden Markram, who made 115. This, of course, is Markram's 6th test century, and I thought he batted quite responsibly until he was York superbly and went for 115. I'll come to you first, Ed. Let's talk about Aidan Markram. Let's talk about his rise in Test cricket. He's played just over 30 Tests now, 6 centuries. Why hasn't he played more? Because when you look at him and you look at how he batted in that innings, he looks like a cricketer that has everything together. Why hasn't he played more cricket for South Africa?
Well, Aidan Markram is a strange subject because, as you say, he's got all the capabilities. He can play any shot in the book. He can play spin. He can play fast bowling. He likes the ball. He likes to take the game to the opposition. But the problem with Aidan Markram in the last sort of 18 to 24 months is that he's been averaging 24. He initially started by opening the batting for South Africa and then dropped all the way down the order to 4 and 5. And sort of lost favor with the selectors, didn't travel to Australia. He had a very good domestic one-day cup outing. And then obviously in the SA20, his team, the Eastern Cape Sunrisers, won the SA20, the inaugural SA20 T20 competition, and he was the captain. And then there were a few changes with the selection being pushed to the side and 2 new coaches being appointed, and namely the Test coach, who is Shukri Conrad, who's a big fan of Aidan Markram, and he came out publicly and said Aidan Markram is too good to be batting or not be playing for South Africa, or too good to be batting at number 4. He needs to open the batting, and we're going to give him a long run at the top of the innings. And I think that's what Aidan Markram has really needed, is someone to probably back him and give him the opportunity to maybe make the mistakes, but also to get a reward as he did today, to get 115 opening the batting for South Africa. But he needs to do it consistently, because if you look at this 100, it's a good 100. But the way he was yoked, it's almost as if he entered a phase of his game where he was stunted, yes, by some good bowling. But if he had got through that period, he's almost good enough to get a double 100 as Aidan Markram. But he gets out for 115, and that's the short story and probably the frustrations of Aidan Markram.
And Tino, on the flip side, you've got Dean Elgar, who is struggling a bit for form, but he is Dean Elgar, and he got 70. Did he bat well in your opinion, Tino, or did the West Indies quicks just not bowl right to him?
No, the West Indies didn't bowl well to him at all. If they were doing their homework, they would have seen how the Australians bowled him down under. But, that first 2 sessions, the West Indies just looked, they weren't grouping their balls together, and they were all over the shop. They were getting carried away with the bounce. But I thought that after tea, the way that Azari Joseph came out, Barry, and bowled, he got it to 93 miles an hour. Look, I do a lot of strength and conditioning with Azari in the CPL, and I always tell Azari, you are my spirit animal. This guy is an ultimate athlete. Zero body fat. He runs. He's just a pure athlete. He bowls quick. He bowls good gas. And all he needs is that good support from the West Indies staff and from his skipper. And I thought Craig Brathwaite today, giving him the responsibility to lead the attack, because there were no leaders out there today in that first 2 sessions. But Azari Joseph took up the mantle, took it away from Jason Holden, from Shannon Gabriel, and from Kemar Roach, and really put that bowling attack on his back and run in and bowl sharp. As Eddie alluded to, the pitch is going to quicken up in the last session, and Azari exploited that marvelously.
Tino, am I right in saying that South Africa's batting is not that big a deal after you get past Elgar, you get past Markram? Their batting, there's no dumplings, there's no potatoes, there's no yams. You strain the soup, you're not left with a lot of provisions, a lot of broth. And Ed said it. Ed said, look, if the West Indies went about in the first 2 sessions bowling a fuller length, easier said than done. But you got coaches to get in these guys' head. You got a captain to make sure that he get the bowlers bowling the right line and length. And look, we can allude and say, oh, the guys aren't match fit, but you can't say that anymore. The amount of cricket that goes around in the world, if you're not playing T20, you're not playing 50 over, so much cricket. So guys got to come and play for West Indies on point, hit the ground running. And I thought that the West Indies got to allow South Africa to get away to that marvelous start. If they had a reverse how they bowled in the 3rd session, it could have been a different ball game, as Ed said. They could have been 140 for 8, 160 for 9. But they did not hit the ground running. And that is something that have always been
a critical part of the bowling. And I thought with that experience, Kemar Roach, Jason Holder, Shannon Gabriel, and Joseph would have hit the ground running a lot better. So a bit disappointed, but I thought South Africa negated it well, and they batted marvelously. They cashed in on every loose delivery the West Indies bowled.
Would you agree with that, Ed? Because the scorecard is telling a bit of a different story in terms of losing their last 6 wickets quite quickly. But would you agree that the South Africa batting is not that great, Ed, in terms of at least in red ball cricket?
I wouldn't say it's not that great. I would say it's fairly inexperienced as a group because they've Keegan Peterson was batting 3, now he's batting 5. They have a new test captain in Temba Babuma who's also trying to find where he bats in the lineup because he was batting 5 and now he's going to be batting 4. Rassie van den Dussen is not there. Cyril Ervia, who opened the batting and has scored 2 back-to-back first-class hundreds at almost close to a run a ball, he's not opening the batting. A debutant in Tony de Zorzi. And then you have Heinrich Klaassen, who's taken over from Kyle Verreynne, who hasn't been, so Heinrich himself hasn't been part of the test squad, but he's been in and around the group. So you can see there's been a multiple of changes. And then the surprise for me was Sen Mutasamy, the left-arm spinner, coming in as an all-rounder with the bat. And sort of there was a question mark on, if you're going to lengthen the batting, surely you should be going with Ryan Rickleton, who's averaging 124 with the bat in first-class cricket this year, and he still hasn't got an opportunity, even when they went to Australia. Now when they've come back and they've had a new coach, they've brought in Sen Mutasamy. So I have to agree with not saying that it's not good. It is a very new batting lineup that is going to have to take some time to get used to. And I have to agree with Tino. West Indies were in Zimbabwe. They spent a lot of time in the field. They bowled really well. The wicket in Bulawayo was flat. They've now gone to Centurion where the pitch actually offered a bit more for the bowlers. I heard Craig Brathwaite say that they had a center wicket and a couple of sort of simulated match scenarios on that particular surface at Centurion. So they knew what they would have needed to do with the new ball in hand, with a very new look, basically top 7 from South Africa. So they could have been a lot better with their groupings, looking to bring the stumps into play, especially in that first 2 hours into the second session. And then you sort of saw, and the one thing you must remember about Highveld and Centurion and where they'll play at the Wanderers is that there's generally a good covering of live grass. And in the first session, the second session, it creates a few indentations. And if you watch the last session of today, the ball started to jag around because those small little indentations, however deep they are, started to create a bit more seam movement. So it's going to get harder to bat on. So a first innings lead was so important, and the West Indies should have slightly thought about that in the future.
All right, so this is On Tour. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we look at the West Indies' player of the day. And we also discuss that final 11. People were asking, where's Gudadesh Moti? We'll tell you what happened that he did not play. Stay with us. So welcome back to On Tour, the wrap-up. Now, the Wendy's player of the day, well, I'm going to choose mine. Tino can choose his. Of course, Ed can choose his as well. But 3 wickets for 60 on what I thought were some good batting conditions. I'm going to go, of course, with none other than Azari Joseph. I want to also mention, though, we've been asking, people have been writing, where is Moti? Why, after 13 wickets in the last test, he didn't play? Well, he has a back injury, so therefore he was ineligible to play in that final 11. And this is what I've been preaching to the West Indies selectors in terms of taking 15 to South Africa. You go to South Africa, you've had to take 16, at least 16, if not 17, because I was worried about those injuries you had in Australia. It spilled a little bit over in Zimbabwe, and now it's already started. The test hasn't started yet, and you've got your main spinner out. Really should have gone with more, but let's not get into that. I'm happy with Azari Joseph. Bowled really well. Tino, who's your player of the day for the West Indies?
Look, you know, they're going to say 1 brings 2. I think that the energy that Azari went out there and bowled with after T really turned the game around for West Indies in that last session. I thought he looked magnificent. He looked fit. He looked quick. And that's what you want to see. I wish I had another 2 fast bowlers to run in. I was a little disappointed with Shannon Gabriel. Doesn't look fit. His pace isn't up. and at 34, 35, you got to be bowling your quickest. To be honest, Barry, and that is a disappointment for me in Shannon Gabriel. You got to be leading the attack. He's played nearly 60 tests already. He doesn't have a record, a big record for someone to be excited about. But that's the experience. Nearly playing 60 tests. You got to lead the attack. I know Kemar Roach as well isn't the quickest, but you and Azari have to lead from the front with that pace. And I thought he didn't bowl well. He don't look fit. He doesn't look quick. He doesn't look sharp. And at this age, heading to 35, I don't see Shannon Gabriel playing for West Indies much longer. But we have to find another young fast bowler. Who's another young quick? I see we have a seamer down there in Jordan. I don't think that Jordan is ready yet for this level, but it's left to be seen. I know Jaden Fields is still injured, so we're looking. So I think that it's kind of a like-for-like situation with Jordan and Jaden Fields. But we got to find young fast bowlers to help Azari, Barry, and I think that is something that the selectors have to look at, and we have to find them. They are out there, but they need good strength and conditioning programs so that they can bowl quick and they can get to that next level and perform for the people of the Caribbean.
All right. Well said there, Tino. Ed, who was your Windies player of the day?
So my player of the day is Joshua De Silva and Chanderpaul. The ball hit perfectly out the middle of the bat by Tony DeZorzi through the cover region, saves the boundary. That could have trickled away, but able to get the dive out, get back onto his feet, and gets the throw to a sort of out of position Joshua De Silva, who parries the ball onto the stumps and then removes the debutant who looks set. He's on 28 or off 60-odd deliveries with a long batting lineup to come. All of a sudden, for 221 becomes 240 for 4. And that, for me, opened the door up for the West Indies and Alzari Joseph to lead the attack for the West Indies and sort of bring the West Indies back into the day. With the way they started, that opening that De Silva and Chanderpaul gave them allowed them to make it a better day for the West Indies.
All right. I can't argue with that from the perspective that wicket, that run out, turned the course. It put the Windies back in. You're so correct. I wouldn't argue that at all. And Joshua De Silva, really fantastic stuff. Good presence of mind to throw the ball on, because he wasn't near the stumps and the ball didn't come near the stumps. Really well done. But look, 314 for 8. The Windies will take that, seeing that they were 221 for 2. So I think they will take the 314 for 8. Live coverage resumes on FlowSports from 4 o'clock. Well, 3:45, but the first ball will be delivered at 4. And you can follow it live and exclusive on FlowSports. If you're going to miss the action, it's a long day, don't worry. We got you covered. We'll be on tour with more analysis and highlights at the end of the day tomorrow. Bye-bye for now.
Jump up, people, are you ready?